Today we talked about the idea of evaluating functions. Remember, to evaluate is to give things a value. And we learned about function notation, which function notation is this weird f parentheses x thing, which we read as f of x. Or we could say that it's the function evaluated at x. So whatever is in the parentheses is always your x value. Whatever is in the parentheses is always your x value. So when it wants you to evaluate f of negative 3, it wants you to replace x with negative 3. So I'm going to rewrite this function. Instead of being f of x equals 2x plus 1, it's going to be f of negative 3 equals 2, and instead of x, I'm going to plug in negative 3 plus 1. So again, I'm just replacing my x with negative 3 so that I can work this out. So on the left side it stays f of negative 3. On the right side we can do some math. Well, 2 times negative 3 here is going to give us negative 6 plus 1. And negative 6 plus 1 is going to be negative 5, which I can write that in ordered pair form because what's in parentheses is x and what it equals is y. So this would be the ordered pair, negative 3, negative 5. So for the second problem, they're telling me this time that x is 2, because that's what's in the parentheses here is 2. So that means I need to rewrite the problem as 2, and instead of x, I need to put in a 2, because that's what they gave us in the parentheses here. And so I'm going to leave the left side alone. F of 2 equals 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1. And 4 plus 1 is 5. So this is the answer, 2, 5. So just focusing on that ordered pair part for a second. I'm going to change colors here so we can see this a little bit differently. And you can see where I got these numbers from. So the 3 that was in the parentheses, it's my x value. The 2 that was in the parentheses that we were evaluating with, it's my x value. And what that equaled when we worked it all out was my y value. So in the first one it was negative 5, and the second one it was positive 5. That's where those numbers are coming from. So I have another problem. G of x equals, or the function g evaluated at x equals 1/2 x plus 3. And we need to complete the table. Well, this time notice I have not 1 but 5 x values here on the left side. So I have to do this problem 5 times. So the first time I'm going to find g of negative 6 because that is my first x value here. And so every time I see x, I'm going to plug in a negative 6. So the problem originally equaled 1/2. Instead of x, again, I'm going to plug in negative 6 because that's the x value. So if I work that out, well, I have g of negative 6 equals 1/2 of negative 6 is negative 3. And then I have negative 3 plus 3, and negative 3 plus 3 is going to be 0. So the other half of this answer is 0. So I'm going to do the same process, but this time I'm going to do it for negative 4. Because negative 4 is the next number in my table. So instead of x, I'm going to plug in negative 4, because again that was the value that we were given for x in the table. So if I work that out, I have g of negative 4 equals 1/2, 1/2 of negative 4 is negative 2 plus 3. And negative 2 plus 3 is going to be positive 1. So that's going to go on the right side of my table. So for my third number, I'm going to use the same formula, g of x, but instead of x, I'm going to plug in 0, because that's what they tell me x is. So I'm going to replace this x in the parentheses with 0. And that's going to equal 1/2 times 0 plus 3. Again, that's the same 0 that I plugged in for x on the left side. So I have g of 0 equals, well, 1/2 times 0 is just 0 plus 3, and 0 plus 3 is still 3. So that's going to be on the right side of my table across from 0. So I'm going to do it all again, but the next time, instead of x, I'm going to plug in 2, because that is what they told us the next x value was. So equals 1/2 times 2. Again, that comes from the x value that we have in the table of 2, plus 3. So g of 2 equals 1/2 times 2, which is 1 plus 3. And 1 plus 3 is going to give us 4. So 4 is going to go on the right side of my table. And for my last one, I'm going to do g of 8, because 8 was the last value down here in my table. So I'm putting 8 in for x. So that's going to equal 1/2 times 8. Again, that same 8 is coming from the table, plus 3. Well, half of 8 is 4. So I have g of 8 equals 4 plus 3. So g of 8 equals 4 plus 3 is 7. So now my table is complete. So remember, every time, all I'm doing is I'm taking whatever number they give me for x. So whatever number is over here for x, I'm putting it in the parentheses for, so g of x, and then I'm replacing the x on the right side with that number as well. So sometimes they're going to give you graphs and ask you to evaluate a function that way, which it works very similarly. You just have to understand what your information you're being given. So remember, the information in the parentheses, whatever number is here in the parentheses, is going to be our x value. So for this first problem, they're telling us that x equals 1, and when we evaluate it, we're trying to figure out what y is. So what is y? So that means we're looking for a point on the graph where x is 1. Well, here's my x-axis, and if I start at 0, 0, 1 is going to be right here. Well, there's my point. It's actually the point on the x-axis. So that point, the y value for that point is 0. So my answer to this problem is 0, because this is the ordered pair 1, 0. Write that in a different color, because it's the ordered pair 1, 0. This point is. So when I'm looking for h of -2, remember they're telling me that x equals -2. So I have to find -2 on the number line, on the x-axis. So here's 0, here's -1, -2. Well, now I've got to find the graph. To find the graph, I have to go up. So this is the point I'm looking for right here, which is the ordered pair -2, 4. So that means my answer to this problem is 4, because that was my y value here.